The courtroom went silent. Not the comfortable kind of silence, the suffocating kind, where every breath feels like an intrusion. Then it happened. A low, deliberate growl rumbled through the air, freezing everyone in place. Heads turned, eyes widened, because the sound didn't come from a person. It came from a dog. At the center of it all sat 6-year-old Nora Baines, her tiny fingers buried deep in the golden fur of Tavi, her support dog. Her lips barely moved. Her voice, when it came, was nothing more than a whisper. But her eyes, those eyes carried the weight of horrors no child should ever know. What could make a trained therapy dog break protocol in the middle of a high-stakes trial? What invisible signal passed between a traumatized little girl and her 4-legged guardian? And how did one moment of courage change the justice system forever? If you ever wonder how survivors find their voice when words fail them, stay with me. And if the story moves you, let me know in the comments below. Nora wasn't always silent. There was a time when her laughter filled rooms, when she asked 1,000 questions a day, when bedtime stories ended with "one more chapter, please." She was bright, curious, full of that fearless wonder only children possess. Then came the night that shattered everything. The details are too dark to dwell on, too painful to dissect. What matters is this. Nora survived something most adults couldn't even imagine. A trusted figure, a locked door, hours that felt like lifetimes. When police finally found her, she was curled in a corner, eyes vacant, voice gone. The weeks that followed were brutal. Nora stopped speaking above a whisper. She flinched at shadows. Sleep became a battleground of night terrors and screams. Her parents watched helplessly as their vibrant daughter disappeared behind walls of fear no amount of love could break down. Therapists tried everything. Play therapy, art therapy, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral approaches. Nora would sit through sessions, silent and unreachable, her small body present but her mind locked away in some fortress of protection. Then came Tavi. The collie arrived on a rainy Tuesday, calm and patient, with eyes that seemed to understand suffering. He didn't demand anything, didn't push. He simply existed beside her, a warm presence that asked for nothing but offered everything. The first breakthrough came 3 weeks in. Nora's hand, trembling, reached out and touched Tavi's soft fur. The dog didn't move, just leaned gently into her palm. For the first time since that terrible night, something in Nora's face softened. Not a smile, not yet, but a crack in the armor. A whisper of possibility. Tavi became her anchor, her protector, her voice when terror stole her words. And in the months ahead, he would become something even more remarkable, her advocate in a system that wasn't built for children like her. Dr. Sarah Chun, Nora's psychologist, recognized something crucial. Nora's trauma wasn't just emotional, it was physical. Her nervous system stayed locked in survival mode, flooding her body with panic responses that made verbal communication nearly impossible under stress. So Dr. Chun proposed something different, something Nora could control, without words. They started small. In the safety of the therapy room, with Tavi lying beside her, Nora learned to signal, a subtle movement of her hand, barely noticeable to anyone not watching closely. 3 fingers pressed gently against Tavi's shoulder. That was it. Simple, silent, powerful. Tavi's training was equally precise. When he felt that specific pressure, that particular pattern, he would respond, sit upright, lock his gaze on whatever direction Nora indicated. Alert, protective, a physical manifestation of the danger only she could perceive. They practiced for months. In the therapy room, at home, in gradually more challenging environments. Parks, grocery stores, places where Nora's anxiety spiked and words became impossible. Each time she gave the signal, Tavi responded, consistent, reliable, trustworthy in ways humans had failed to be. The bond between them deepened with every session, every small victory. Nora began sleeping through the night. Her whispers grew slightly stronger. She started making eye contact again. But the real test was coming. Because Nora's story didn't end with healing. It had to pass through the courtroom first. And everyone knew that bringing Tavi into that environment would be unprecedented, controversial, and absolutely necessary. Have you ever had someone, human or animal, who understood you without words? Drop a heart in the comments if you know that feeling. The courthouse felt like a cathedral of intimidation. Marble floors, high ceilings, the kind of architecture designed to make people feel small. For 6-year-old Nora, it might as well have been a coliseum. She sat in the witness box, a booster cushion beneath her, so she could see over the edge. Tavi pressed against her legs beneath the wooden rail. Her mother had dressed her in a soft blue dress, something comforting and familiar. But nothing could make this moment feel safe. The prosecutor, a woman named Jessica Martinez, approached with practiced gentleness. Her voice was warm, her questions carefully scripted to avoid re-traumatizing. Nora, can you tell us what happened on the night of March 15th? Nora's lips moved. Nothing came out. She tried again, and this time a whisper emerged. So faint the court reporter leaned forward, straining to hear. He said. Across the courtroom, at the defense table, her abuser sat perfectly still, suit pressed, expression neutral, playing the part of the wrongly accused. But Nora's body knew the truth. Her hands began to shake. Her breathing quickened. The courtroom's fluorescent lights suddenly felt too bright, too harsh, too much. Ms. Martinez noticed. Take your time, sweetheart. You're doing great. You're so brave. But brave wasn't enough. Panic was rising like floodwater, drowning out everything else. Nora's vision narrowed. Her ears rang. The prosecutor's kind words became distant echoes. Then, buried deep in Tavi's fur where no one could see, Nora's fingers moved. 3 gentle presses. The signal. Tavi's transformation was immediate. He sat bolt upright, muscles coiled, and turned his head toward the defense table. His eyes locked onto the defendant with an intensity that made several jurors gasp. Then came the growl, low, controlled, unmistakably protective. Not aggression. Warning. This is what danger looks like. The courtroom erupted in whispers. The defense attorney shot to his feet. Your Honor, this is completely inappropriate. The dog is clearly influencing. Judge Mirabelle Ward's gavel cracked like thunder. We're in recess. Counsel, my chambers. Now. Behind the heavy oak door of her chambers, Judge Ward removed her reading glasses and pinched the bridge of her nose. 23 years on the bench, and she'd never faced a moment quite like this. To her left sat Jessica Martinez, the prosecution's steady hand. To her right, defense attorney Robert Chun, no relation to Nora's therapist, arms crossed, jaw tight. And standing by the window, Dr. Sarah Chun herself, present as Nora's medical advocate. This is prejudicial, Chun the attorney began. That dog's behavior creates bias. The jury sees a protective response and automatically assumes my client is guilty. Your client is guilty, Martinez shot back. And that child has a constitutional right to testify. Without her support animal, she physically cannot participate in this trial. Judge Ward held up a hand. Silence fell. She'd spent the previous evening reading Dr. Chen's report, all 47 pages detailing Nora's trauma responses, her treatment plan, and Tavi's medical necessity. But reading about it and witnessing it were different universes entirely. Dr. Chen, the judge said quietly, explain what I just saw. The psychologist stepped forward. Nora gave Tavi a signal we developed in therapy. It's how she communicates danger when her trauma response makes speech impossible. Tavi's reaction isn't random. It's a medical accommodation, no different than a wheelchair or a hearing aid. The dog growled at my client. The dog responded to Nora's internal state. Dr. Chen interrupted, which reflects her genuine trauma response. That's the whole point. She's not faking. Her body is telling the truth even when her voice can't. Judge Ward stood and walked the window, watching rain streak down the glass. Fairness versus compassion. Legal precedent versus human decency. The kind of decision that would follow her long after she retired. What would you do if you were the judge? Should compassion override traditional courtroom rules? Let me know your thoughts below. When court reconvened, you could hear a pin drop. Judge Ward's expression revealed nothing as she surveyed the packed gallery, the nervous jurors, and little Nora still clutching Tavi's for like a lifeline. This court has carefully considered the defense's objection, she began, her voice carrying the weight of precedent about to be set, and I am denying it. The witness's support animal will remain for the duration of her testimony. The defense attorney rose. Your Honor, I must object. Your objection is noted and overruled, Counselor. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires reasonable accommodations for witnesses with documented medical needs. Dr. Chen's report clearly establishes that this child cannot participate in these proceedings without her service animal. This court will not deny a victim her constitutional right to testify simply because her accommodation makes them uncomfortable. We will proceed. The gavel fell with finality. Something shifted in Nora's posture. Not confidence, not yet, but a fraction less fear. Judge Ward had listened, had believed, had chosen her. Ms. Martinez approached again, this time with renewed purpose. Nora, I know this is hard, but you're not alone. Tavi's right there. The judge is right there. And we're all here to listen to you. Can you tell us, in your own words, what happened? Nora's hand rested on Tavi's head. The dog's presence was steady, grounding, real. She took a breath, small and shaky, but a breath nonetheless. He told me we were playing a game. The whisper was barely audible, but the courtroom had gone so quiet that every word landed like a stone in still water. But it wasn't a game. It hurt. I said stop. He didn't stop. Tears streamed down her face, but she kept going. Every word was a battle. Every sentence, a victory. When her voice faltered, Tavi would shift slightly, reminding her of his presence. When panic threatened to overwhelm her, she'd bury her fingers in his fur and breathe. The prosecutor asked about specific details, dates, locations, things said. Nora answered what she could. When she couldn't, when the trauma response locked her voice away, she'd give Tavi the signal, and the dog would respond, his protective stance speaking the truth her words couldn't form. The jury watched, transfixed. Several wiped away tears. The defendant's mask began to crack. Micro-expressions of anger, frustration, fear flickering across his face. By the time Nora finished, 90 minutes had passed. She looked exhausted, wrung out, but something else too. Lighter, unburdened. She had spoken. She had been heard. And she had survived. The verdict came 3 days later. Guilty on all counts. The defendant would spend decades behind bars. But the real story wasn't just about one man's conviction. It was about what Nora and Tavi had changed. Judge Ward's ruling became cited in courtrooms across the country. Trauma-informed accommodation protocols were established. Other survivors, children and adults alike, gained the right to testify with their support animals present. What began as one girl's desperate need became a movement toward compassionate justice. Nora continued therapy with Tavi at her side. Slowly, carefully, she rebuilt herself. Her whisper grew to a speaking voice. The nightmares became less frequent. She learned to trust again, not blindly, but wisely. And Tavi remained her constant companion through every milestone, every setback, every hard-won victory. Judge Mirabelle Ward later said in an interview, "Justice isn't just about punishment. It's about creating space for truth to emerge, even when that truth comes in whispers and growls." Nora taught me that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a little girl's hand pressed against her dog's shoulder, asking him to be brave for both of them. That precedent stands today, a testament to the moment compassion, and law found common ground. Nora and Tavi's story reminds us that courage takes infinite forms, that healing is possible, that sometimes justice needs to listen not just to words, but to the spaces between them. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and share it with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe for more stories that matter. What's one lesson you're taking away from this? I'll be reading every comment.